Hello and welcome to this short little presentation. Jessica Kingsley, the publisher, asked me to speak on my book, The Secret of Everlasting Life. This is the work that's been very close to my heart for many years. In the last few hours when I was with my Chinese teacher back in the 80s, I remember him talking about the subject of alchemy. Richard, he said, you really must get into alchemy, pursue alchemy. He was half Chinese, half American. A very interesting man, straddled the divide between East and West. And in those days it was something very new. Now everybody talks about alchemical transformation and meditation and Qigong, but in those days it was a very fresh subject. I'm talking about 25, 30 years ago now. This chapter is from the centre of the work. The work goes back to 142 AD by a certain gentleman called Wei Po Yang, and it's really a very small representation of a much larger body of work which was there in China. Much research going on into meditative practices. The centre of it is the control of one's deeper autonomic processes in a very natural manner. This is the paradox. This chapter is called The Three Jewels, the Real Crux, chapter 25, and it tells in detail that the meditative process is one of what the Taoists might call sitting and forgetting. A little bit of humour there, meaning that we have to empty the brain to understand the deeper processes of the body. First the original text, and then some of the summary and commentary by the later Yuan and Song commentators, who were writing nearly 1,000 years later. The eye, the ear, the mouth, these three jewels, block and stop them up. Do not let them gape. The truth in man lies in the very depths. He roams wide, yet guards a proper compass within. Sight and hearing are both crooked and winding. They function entirely together as the pivot and linchpin of the self. Their movement never exhausted. So bank up and guard the sight within. Do not employ the ears in hearing. Close the mouth to chattering with rare words out of the teeming void. These three are the crux of the affair. To be with a relaxed body, resting in an empty room. Abandon the will and return to the void, and without thinking thus find constancy. The commentator Yu Yang goes on. These three jewels, block and stop them up. Do not let them gape. Generally, if you're never restrained outside, you'll never let go properly within. Have you ever seen a pot cooking rice? You close the lid tightly on top and build up a fire to heat it below. There's not the slightest gap left between the lid and outside, while the hot gases wind and whirl around inside and are pent up within. Then in a short while the rice is cooked and you have a meal. Now someone who is engaged in the business of cultivating an elixir must turn back his sight, take back his hearing, close up his mouth, swallow down his saliva. He should not allow the slightest gap to be left for the true energy to escape outside. Then the ultimate medicine will be brought to life, and the great elixir fully formed and mature. The ultimate medicine, the great elixir. The Chinese were unique in alchemical development, in understanding this substance, the inner elixir. It's a substance which we can produce inside, which will work towards ensuring good health and possibly promotion of longevity. The Chinese, with typical hyperbole, talk about everlasting life. So then the method is extremely easy. This is his conclusion. You need only move the true breath along to the topmost gate, just like lifting up the string of a lute with plectrum. Then very evenly and silently the true energy rises through three stages, rising and falling quite naturally, and all the body's joints are opened quite easily and naturally released. It's similar to moving a 10,000-ton barge with only an 8-foot oar, or holding back the string of a 1,000-pound bow with only an inch of trigger. You do not waste any force whatsoever. But the blind and ignorant will not believe this. If perhaps you decide to pay a visit to the old ruler who sits in his mud ball palace, then pay your silent respects to him. If you do any more, it'll be like adding legs to a snake. Good luck in your practice, and there's plenty more good stuff like that in the book. Thank you.